Hey, Walking Dead fans, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about Season 10, Episode 5. Episode 4, I thought was a really great episode. It was a lot of character building, a lot of, just stuff that needed to be worked out and talked about. A lot of issues were being talked about, like real-world type issues. 5, I thought was another good episode. It had a few slow moments. The Kelly stuff was okay, but it did tell a story, part of the story, but the Daryl Connie interactions, and of course the Negan escape and Brandon stuff, all just great, awesome episode. Can't wait for the next one. Then that's the kind of episodes I like to see and watch. Can't wait to see it. And then after watching it, like, oh, that was an awesome episode. I just can't wait till the next one. But we do see Kelly in the beginning. She's hunting a small feral hog, and she does kill it with a slingshot. That's pretty good. And sneaking up to it, even as close as she did, is pretty good. Kelly does find herself in a predicament, but Connie, Daryl, and Dog finds her. Thank you, Dog. And Connie gets her sister back, takes her back to Hilltop, and she gets bandaged up. She's not bitten. She seems to be okay. And even though the show bounced back and forth, let me go over the Hilltop stuff real quick, and then I'll bounce over to the exciting stuff, Negan, right? Okay, so at Hilltop, Yumiko seems to be one of the leaders, even though there's probably a council type leadership. Yumiko has definitely stepped up into like Maggie's role, right? And something as of that, I guess, plays into that whole Magna versus Yumiko, and they pretty much split up by the end of the episode. We learned a lot of stuff in this episode, and some of the stuff we did learn is about the Whispers. They did send those waves, even though Gamma said, not us, not us. A lot of you commenters were just like, man, it was the Whispers. It had to be, it had to be, it had to be. And I was like, yeah, but Gamma said it wasn't them. And Eugene said it could be the satellite. But we've learned through this episode 5 that it was the Whispers sending the waves of walkers. It was the Whispers that took down the tree and is doing several other tactics, like Gamma putting the guts and blood in the water. And we heard from Dante while Sadiq was talking on the radio that Rosita had caught a bug. And could that be something stemming from stuff that the Whispers are doing, like tainting the water? But in this shot, we saw some other shots, night shots from the last episode of the tree that had fell over. Clearly, it's all splintered and everything. It wasn't chopped down. It wasn't cut down. It was just it fell over. It looked like it fell over by natural causes, I would have predicted. But in this episode, we learned the Whispers did something to the tree. How they got it to fall over? Did they know it was old and had a weak spot? I don't understand how they pushed the tree over and it broke like that. And as you can see, there's a lot of stumps around. They've been cutting the trees down, a pile of logs there around the perimeter of the Hilltop. And that's a smart thing to do. You shouldn't ever leave a tree up right beside the wall that could fall on the wall. And ultimately, that's Hilltop's fault, the way I see it. The walkers that came in at that tree and was aimed right at the wall, sounds like the Whispers did it. And maybe that was their intention, to aim them toward that wall. But where was the noise coming from? And why couldn't the people at Hilltop run out and make some noise to lure the walkers away? There's a lot of logic there. And fort defenses, if you just look that up, oh my God, that's none of these places have any type of defenses like even people did in medieval times. They're trying to steal all these ideas from like fighting with swords and all kinds of different weapons that they're making up. But their perimeter defense and the way they defend their forts or their communities, it's just not logical, not smart. And one more thing, sad thing that we did learn, Ezekiel has been coughing and stuff, and people have been predicting in the comments that Ezekiel is sick, something life-threatening type sickness, and it is thyroid cancer, something he said is running his family. And before the apocalypse happened, they had ways to prevent it, 98%, 96%, whatever he said. And that nowadays, though, it's a death sentence. So will Ezekiel die before he dies? Will he die by the hands of the Whispers or something? Or will he actually go all the way to the end and die of cancer? Some commenters have said that's kind of a crazy, stupid thing to do, cancer, but it's a real thing, man. It's real it's very real before the apocalypse, and it's just as real, even more so, after the apocalypse, because the treatments, any treatments that were possible, probably aren't around anymore. Definitely just because the zombies showed up doesn't mean all the ills of the world went away. And of course, we do see Sadiq on the radio with Dante, like I said, and he made a way like, hey, bring Carol to the radio, and Ezekiel, I guess, was going to tell her what's up. Very sad moment, and he just couldn't bring himself to do it. And while out looking for Kelly, of course, Daryl and Connie, they have the little story about Merle. I think that was a scene that was released early, so a lot of people saw it before the show even aired. But it was a nice little fishing story. Another connecting moment between Daryl and Connie. And Daryl was really just trying to ease Connie's mind about looking for Kelly and just saying, really, it's going to be all right. But what they did end up finding out, something else we found out this episode, there's been some supplies missing from Hilltop. And medicine, food, everything, and it come to find out it was Magna and Kelly. And, you know, some of these groups that come into communities from other groups that have been in many, many groups since the apocalypse started, you know, I think even Rick and his group went through it at some point about, hey, we need to put these supplies over here to ourselves as a getaway thing, as a survival tactic, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that's what Magna was doing. Trying to provide a survival tactic for themselves because of this Whisper and Walker threat that's going on. But they did tell on themselves, and Connie and Daryl decide, hey, we're just going to tell them we found all this stuff. We don't know who's been taking it, but we found it. But of course, Yumiko and Magna talk about it, and Yumiko knew it was Magna, and of course, they break up toward the end of the show. So before we get to Negan and Brandon, what all happened with the Whisperers? So Alpha sends Gamma out to build a dam along the creek with Walker bodies and cutting them open to let their guts and blood and all that contamination spill out into the creek. So much of the interaction is between Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Gamma is interacting with Aaron, the man with the metal arm, and Alpha tells Gamma that he may be useful in some way. But from what we're seeing with Gamma, when Alpha killed the guy in this episode, I think Gamma is having flashbacks to her sister and maybe doubting Alpha for the first time. Like, bitch, you're crazy. Why am I going along with this? And I think that's why she stabbed and cut her hand, which made Aaron throw her some bandage. I don't know what he's doing, what his intentions are really with this. But it does look like Aaron's going to be playing a pretty big part in this Whisper stuff. All right, let's move on to Negan. Exciting. Negan has been let out, and who do we think let him out? My prediction is Daryl or Aaron. Of course, Daryl and Sadiq went looking for Negan and ended up at Hilltop. But, you know, Daryl went to talk to Negan and said, you know, everybody out there wants to kill you pretty much, string you up. I think Daryl ultimately let him out. That's my prediction on that. Why? Several reasons, I guess. Not necessarily to, hey, you go fix this Whisperer stuff for us. I think it was just more of there could be a lynching, and I don't want to be a part of that, so I'm going to let you go. I don't know. There could be several reasons. But Negan is out, and we find out that Brandon didn't do it.
So you're really not going to tell me how you got out of that cell? All right, well, at least tell me what we're looking for.
But we do find out how much of a follower, how much godlike he thinks Negan is. And the backstory to Brandon in the comic was different. And I'll do another video comparing the comic to the show. I won't go deep into that. In the show, Brandon's family, dad, was a savior and would talk about Negan, the whistling, the baseball bat. All that stuff would talk about the way things were, and they were so great. And Brandon has just become to idolize Negan. I am Negan. I am Negan. Pretty crazy kid, if you ask me. Pretty crazy moment. Negan had to deal with that. Pretty much told him, just get the F out of my face, man. Just go away. Because Brandon was going to kill the lady and her son that they found and saved on the bus. And Negan's like, no, dude. We don't do that. We don't kill kids. We don't just do that. You know, I'm not like that anymore. I wasn't necessarily like that in the beginning. Your head's just full of shit. But Brandon does bring Negan his jacket. He does make him a new Lucille. But he does end up, after Negan kicks him to the curb does end up coming back and killing the woman and the boy. And does that whistling. So it's funny in a way, I think, ironic, funny, sad, lots of different things, that the whistling that Negan used to do to try to instill fear into the survivors, the other people, it was turned back on him a little bit in this scene. When he heard that whistling and then he saw the two dead bodies, this shit is just wrong. I now feel how a lot of the people that I was terrorizing felt. But if you do want some classic Negan, they did give it to us in the form of him sitting down on that tailgate with the little boy, telling him about the nut slapping thing. And so that's definitely some classic comic kind of Negan coming out. That whole story and the way he told the little kid, the stuff he told the little kid. I am Negan! And even though it wasn't a funny moment necessarily, when Brandon jumped up, raised his hands up, and was saying, I am Negan, and Negan whams him in the face with that rock, that was kind of funny a little bit. Like, dude, you are crazy and you're about to get your head mashed in and you don't even realize it. But definitely, you know, like I was saying at the beginning when I said The Walking Dead's fun, again, when you can look forward to an episode and then you watch that episode and you're looking even more forward to the next episode, that's what The Walking Dead is right there, man. A good feeling, a good episode, like, oh man, I can't wait till next week. And of course, lots of people see it early and stuff like that, but still, we've only got a few episodes up to mid-season. Will the main thing that Negan does to the Whisperers happen right up at mid-season? That's kind of what I'm predicting. I'm almost predicting Negan does his thing with the Whisperers as far as what happened in the comic right at mid-season. But maybe not. That may play out a little longer because that's a long time in the back half of season 10 for the Whispers to play out the rest of the way. So it may go after the mid-season. That sounds logical as well. But Negan strolling across the border, killing some guardians or walkers, and pretty much saying, hey, Whisperers, where are you? Come on out. And Beta does come out. And he's like, all right, you big freak, let's do this. Oh, man, it's on. I mean, next episode, will they show any of that? Hopefully. They may not. They may carry it all the way over. But I don't know, man. I really hope they show some of that next episode. Beta and Negan, and they take Negan back to the camp. All of that's going to be so awesome. I can't wait. But overall, I think it was a great episode. I think the last episode, episode 4, was one of the better episodes, and 5 is a great episode. 6, is lining up to be a great episode. So I'm very excited for The Walking Dead at the moment, if you can't tell. Just really exciting. So let me know what you thought about it all in the comments below, about any aspect, anything at all, whether you're pro-Negan, anti-Negan. What do you think about the man with the metal arm and Gamma, Alpha, and her strategies going forward? What's going to happen between Magna and Yumiko? Just all kinds of things going on. Can't wait to read through the comments and join in on the discussion myself below. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Dead stuff.